Well, as for the race for the Democratic nomination, the ABC News Washington Post poll has former Vice President Joe Biden leading the field at 30%, with Senator Bernie Sanders at 19%, Senator Kamala Harris at 13%, Senator Elizabeth Warren at 12%, while Mayor Pete Buttigieg is in a distant fifth place with 4%. In the Real Clear Politics polling average, a recent surge for Senator Harris since the June 27th debate has moved her past Sanders and Warren into second place. Meanwhile, 45% of Democrats think Biden is best positioned to defeat President Trump next year. The ABC Washington Post poll also finds that 18% view Sanders as the best bet to win, while 9% pick Harris and 7% pick Elizabeth Warren.
So, Reverend Al, I'm just curious what you think of those numbers. Obviously, Joe Biden's numbers fluctuate. I know that Michelle Obama over the weekend was asked to get involved in the debate between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and she said, not going to take that bait. And also brought up the fact that it was just so early, that things were going to change so much. And she, of course, should know, because this time 12 years ago, Mika was flying to Iowa, interviewed Michelle there, who was at that time, along with her husband, very frustrated that black voters were still supporting Hillary Clinton over Barack Obama by pretty good numbers. That, of course, changed dramatically, and this race could change dramatically, too. What are you hearing on the ground? What are you hearing in the churches? What are you hearing in places like South Carolina?
Well, I spent the last 4 days at the Essence Festival, where it's the largest gathering of black women, where Michelle Obama spoke, and I've been there every year for 25 years. And their coming together was a little different this year. We had 6 of the major candidates. So you could hear the buzz from all over the country, and people are saying it is early. When Ms. Obama referred to the statement you made was made there at the Essence Festival, when she referred to when at this point in her and Barack Obama's race, they were totally lower on the polls. And there was still a lot of blacks saying, we don't know him. We can't hardly say his name. So you can't really at this point say where it is going. You can make a big mistake and not be forgiven, but it is more difficult to make a good mark that will be remembered. So I think we're at the point where people are saying, don't make any big mistakes that they'll remember 6 weeks from now, but you're going to have to give it all you have for them to remember your policy proposals the very next day.
Well, and Mika, it is so important for people that look at the candidates, look at their race, and try to match that up with the voters. It's so important for them to realize that that's just not how voters vote. On a much different scale, I always said it was when I ran, I was 29 years old. The younger voters were the most skeptical of me, and it was the older voters that voted for me in 2007, 2008, which with a heck of a lot more on the line. Barack Obama, I mean, it's very easy to look back and say, oh, Barack Obama, of course he won the black vote, and of course, no, he had to fight. And you remember in your interview the frustration with Michelle Obama, and remember the team's frustration that Barack Obama had to convince black voters that voting for him was in their personal interest, because people vote for their very specific personal best interests. They don't vote for an idea. They don't vote for a symbol. They vote to make their household better. And so I think what we're seeing right now in these polls, it's awfully early, but what we're seeing right now in these polls are a lot of people. If you put up the numbers again about, you know, the head-to-heads, right now it's Joe Biden who's the only one that's clearly ahead, because a lot of Democrats still believe, despite his very poor debate performance, believe that Joe Biden has the best chance to beat Donald Trump.
And counter to the point that it's early, I mean, the ratings for the Democratic debate were pretty high. People are watching. I think this is a presidency that has people on the edge of their seat. That's a little bit Trump-driven. That's the way he rolls. And perhaps some are very worried about the direction that this country is heading in, and I think they are tuned in. So I don't know. I guess it's early, but I still think it matters. By the way, after facing weeks of criticism and questions over his record on race and civil rights, former Vice President Joe Biden this weekend expressed regret over his recent comments about his past work with segregationists. Speaking at a campaign event in front of a mostly African-American audience in South Carolina on Saturday, Biden also gave his most forceful defense of his record yet, while leaning on his time serving as former President Obama's second in command.
As if my opponents want to believe I served from 1972 to 2008 and then took a hiatus the next 8 years. They don't want to talk much about my time as Vice President of the United States. I was vetted by he and 10 serious lawyers he appointed to go back and to look at every single thing in my background, from finances to anything I had done, everything. And he selected me. I'll take his judgment about my record, my character, my ability to handle a job over anyone else's. Would have been nice if the day Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, they and everything they stood for had been removed from the Senate and from the political landscape of America. But that's not the real world. Folks, now, was I wrong a few weeks ago to somehow give the impression to people that I was praising those men who I successfully opposed time and again? Well, yes, I was. I regret it. And I'm sorry for any of the pain or misconception they may have caused anybody.
So, Reverend Al, pretty strong line there about Barack Obama. That Barack Obama vetted all the candidates, and of all the candidates, looking at all of their backgrounds, he chose Joe Biden, and Joe says he'll take Barack Obama's opinion of him on civil rights over anyone else's. What do you think about, is that a strong line for the campaign? And more importantly, did Joe Biden take care of some important business in that speech this weekend, or does the controversy continue?
I think it is a very strong line because clearly everyone knows that President Obama was deliberate and would have vetted anyone. And I think it is a strong line. I think that his apology over the weekend, one has to wonder why he just didn't do it 2 weeks ago when many of us was raising it. I personally, on Politics Nations, 2 Saturdays ago in South Carolina, tried to get him to do it because I had worked with him during the Obama administration on everything from the Trayvon Martin case to other situations that we as civil rights leaders would meet with the president on. So it hurt us because the words was being said by someone that we felt was more sensitive. But I think that it will move on from here. But it was a 2-week story that he made. He gave the opening to Senator Harris. He created the story. Had he said 2 weeks ago what he said Saturday, it would have been forgotten the next day and said Joe just messed up in language, which many of us do. I think, though, that he can move on, and I think the fact that he was vetted and did work closely with President Obama helps him. That does not mean the Obamas are going to weigh in and endorse him by any stretch, but I think it certainly is part of a resume that his competitors in the field cannot match.
All right. Still ahead on Morning Joe, he received one of the most lenient sentences for a serial sex offender in U.S. history. A lot of people were surprised by that. Now, multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein has reportedly been arrested outside of New York. We'll talk to the Miami Herald reporter who's been covering this story from the very beginning.
And that reporting, Mika, there's no doubt that reporting made a huge difference.
Absolutely.
In putting this story front and center. And I believe force the feds to finally do the right thing.
You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back with that story and much more.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.